The Art of War by Sun Tzu, written and published by Ngasline. The essence of conflict lies not in the clash of arms, but in the understanding of human nature and the delicate balance of power. At its core, strategic thinking begins with recognizing that every confrontation, whether in business, politics, or warfare, is governed by universal principles that transcend time and culture. These fundamental truths have remained constant since ancient times, making them as relevant today as they were during the era of chariots and bronze swords. The first element of warfare is moral influence, which speaks to the harmony between people and their leaders. When leaders and followers share common values and purpose, their combined strength becomes virtually unassailable. The second element is weather, representing the interaction of natural forces with human endeavors. Just as armies must adapt to rain and sunshine, modern strategists must navigate the ever-changing landscape of their chosen battlefield. The third element is terrain, encompassing both physical space and the abstract territories where conflicts unfold. The fourth element is command, embodying leadership's crucial role in orchestrating resources and human potential. The fifth element is doctrine, representing the organization, control, and discipline necessary for any successful endeavor. These five elements form the foundation upon which all strategic success is built. Understanding their interplay allows leaders to achieve what Sun Tzu considered the highest form of excellence, breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. This concept represents the pinnacle of strategic mastery, where victory is achieved through position, preparation, and psychological advantage rather than direct confrontation. Consider how a skilled strategist approaches conflict. Rather than rushing headlong into battle, they first cultivate an unassailable position. They strengthen their alliances, secure their resources, and establish clear lines of communication. They create situations where victory becomes inevitable before the first move is made. This approach transforms potential conflicts into opportunities for growth and advancement without destruction. The true art of strategy lies in recognizing that every situation contains both danger and opportunity. By understanding the fundamental elements of warfare, strategists can identify these dual aspects and manipulate them to their advantage. They learn to see beyond the immediate confrontation to grasp the broader patterns that govern success and failure. Modern application of these principles requires careful adaptation to contemporary contexts. In business, moral influence becomes corporate culture and employee engagement. Weather translates to market conditions and economic cycles. Terrain encompasses market position and competitive landscape. Command reflects organizational leadership, while doctrine represents operational procedures and business strategies. Strategic thinking demands patience, discipline, and awareness. It requires leaders to resist the urge for quick victories and instead focus on creating conditions where success becomes inevitable. This approach conserves resources, minimizes risk, and achieves objectives with minimal collateral damage. It transforms the art of war into the art of strategic victory, where battles are won in the mind before they are ever fought in reality. The foundation of strategic thinking teaches us that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the capacity to achieve objectives while preserving resources and relationships. It shows us that the greatest victories are often invisible, achieved through careful positioning and psychological mastery rather than direct confrontation. This understanding forms the bedrock upon which all other strategic principles are built, guiding leaders toward excellence in any competitive endeavor. As we delve deeper into the principles of strategic warfare, remember that these foundational elements form the lens through which all other concepts must be viewed. They provide the framework for understanding how to achieve objectives efficiently and effectively while minimizing the cost of conflict. When properly understood and applied, these principles enable leaders to navigate challenges with wisdom and precision, achieving victory through strategy rather than force. Know thyself. Know thy enemy. The path to victory begins long before any confrontation takes place. The essence of strategic mastery lies not in the execution of battle plans, but in the profound understanding of both oneself and one's adversaries. This fundamental principle forms the cornerstone of successful strategy, whether in warfare, business, or personal conflicts. Understanding oneself requires brutal honesty and continuous self-assessment. A leader must intimately know their strengths, weaknesses, capabilities, and limitations. This knowledge extends beyond personal attributes to encompass all resources at one's disposal, from personnel and equipment to intangible assets like morale and motivation. Without this clear self-awareness, even the most brilliant strategies may fail due to overestimation or underutilization of available resources. Equally crucial is the thorough understanding of one's opponents. This encompasses not just their visible capabilities, but their hidden strengths, concealed weaknesses, true motivations, and underlying fears. Intelligence gathering becomes an art form in itself, requiring both systematic collection of information and intuitive interpretation of subtle signals. The wise strategist studies their opponent's patterns, habits, and tendencies, building a comprehensive picture that reveals both opportunities and potential threats. Knowledge of the enemy extends beyond mere facts and figures. It requires understanding their psychology, culture, and decision-making processes. By comprehending how an opponent thinks, one can anticipate their reactions and manipulate situations to their disadvantage. This deep understanding allows for the creation of strategies that exploit psychological vulnerabilities and behavioral patterns. The interplay between self-knowledge and understanding of the enemy creates a dynamic framework for strategic planning. When you know both yourself and your enemy, victory becomes a mathematical certainty. You can calculate risks with precision and choose optimal courses of action. When you know yourself but not your enemy, your chances of victory diminish significantly. Most dangerous of all is engaging in conflict while lacking self-knowledge, even if you understand your opponent. Intelligence gathering must be continuous and comprehensive. It involves creating networks of information, analyzing patterns, and maintaining constant vigilance. This process requires patience, resourcefulness, and the ability to separate valuable information from noise. The most valuable intelligence often comes from seemingly insignificant details that, when properly interpreted, reveal crucial insights into an opponent's capabilities and intentions. Preparation becomes the natural outcome of this knowledge. Armed with understanding of both sides' capabilities and limitations, a leader can develop strategies that maximize advantages while minimizing exposure to risk. This preparation includes not just planning for immediate confrontations, but also establishing contingencies for various scenarios and creating flexible response options. Through thorough preparation based on comprehensive knowledge, victory can often be achieved without direct confrontation. When you understand both yourself and your enemy completely, you can position yourself in ways that make resistance futile or create situations where opponents defeat themselves. This represents the highest form of strategic mastery, winning without fighting. The process of gathering knowledge never ends. Circumstances change, capabilities evolve, and new factors emerge. The successful strategist maintains a constant state of learning and assessment, updating their understanding of both themselves and their opponents. This dynamic awareness allows for rapid adaptation to changing situations and the ability to seize unexpected opportunities. This chapter's principle transcends military applications, applying equally to business competition, personal relationships, and any situation involving strategic interaction. The core message remains constant. True victory comes not from superior force or clever tactics, but from superior understanding. By mastering the art of knowing yourself and your opponent, you create the foundation for success in any endeavor. The power of deception. In warfare, nothing is more valuable than the ability to conceal one's true intentions and capabilities. The essence of deception lies not in elaborate schemes, but in the fundamental understanding that perception shapes reality. When an army appears weak while harboring great strength, the enemy grows bold and careless. Conversely, when a weak force projects an image of overwhelming power, adversaries become hesitant and cautious. The art of deception begins with mastering the ability to project false impressions. A wise commander understands that every action, every movement, and every piece of information that reaches the enemy must serve a purpose. When preparing for battle, make noise in the east while advancing from the west. Create patterns that your enemy can observe, then break them at crucial moments. Let your opponent believe they have discovered your weaknesses, while these perceived vulnerabilities are actually your strengths. Psychological warfare forms the foundation of successful deception. The human mind naturally seeks patterns and meaning, making it susceptible to carefully crafted illusions. By understanding this tendency, a skilled strategist can plant seeds of doubt in the enemy's mind, causing them to question their own judgment and capabilities. Fear and uncertainty are powerful weapons that can paralyze an opponent's decision-making process. Creating strategic advantages through deception requires patience and careful planning. Every false signal must be believable within the context of your known capabilities and previous actions. The most effective deceptions are those that align with what the enemy already believes or wants to believe. When they think they have figured out your strategy, they will act based on their assumptions, walking willingly into the trap you have set. The practice of deception extends beyond mere tactical maneuvers. It encompasses everything from the way you position your forces to how you communicate with allies and enemies alike. Even truth can become a form of deception when revealed at the right moment. By occasionally allowing genuine information to reach the enemy, you establish credibility that makes future deceptions more effective. Managing your reputation is another crucial aspect of strategic deception. When others believe you to be honorable, they will trust your words and actions. This trust can become a powerful weapon when the stakes are highest. Similarly, a reputation for unpredictability can make enemies overcautious, paralyzed by the inability to anticipate your next move. However, deception must never be employed without purpose. Each false signal, each carefully crafted impression must serve your larger strategic objectives. Random acts of deception without clear purpose waste resources and can backfire, making future attempts at misdirection less effective. The goal is not to deceive for deception's sake, but to create conditions that lead to victory with minimal conflict. The most skilled practitioners of strategic deception understand that it's not about creating elaborate lies, but about managing perceptions. By controlling what information reaches your opponents and how they interpret it, you can guide their decisions without them realizing they're being manipulated. The ultimate deception is one where the enemy believes they are acting of their own free will while following the path you have laid out for them. As with all aspects of warfare, the effective use of deception requires balance. Too obvious a deception will be easily detected, while too subtle an approach may fail to influence the enemy's behavior. Success lies in finding the right measure of truth and falsehood, strength and weakness, action and inaction. When mastered, the power of deception becomes a force multiplier that can turn even a small force into an insurmountable obstacle. Your enemies are also attempting to deceive you. By understanding the principles of deception, you become better equipped to recognize when others are attempting to manipulate your perceptions. This awareness is crucial for maintaining strategic advantage and avoiding the traps set by your opponents. Strategic planning. In the realm of warfare and conflict, strategic planning stands as the cornerstone of success. The wise general understands that victories are secured long before armies clash on the battlefield. This fundamental truth extends beyond military confrontations into every aspect of competitive endeavor. Strategic planning requires deep contemplation, careful analysis, and meticulous attention to detail. The foundation of strategic planning lies in thorough preparation. Before any action is taken, one must develop a comprehensive understanding of the situation at hand. This includes evaluating available resources, assessing potential obstacles, and considering multiple paths to victory. A well-crafted plan accounts for various contingencies and anticipates possible responses from opponents. Just as a master chess player thinks several moves ahead, a strategic leader must envision the long-term consequences of each decision. The most effective strategies often remain hidden from view, like dark clouds gathering before a storm. When your plans are obscured from your opponents, they cannot prepare adequate defenses. This principle of concealment applies not only to specific tactical maneuvers, but to your broader strategic intentions as well. By maintaining secrecy around your true objectives, you create uncertainty in your opponent's mind, forcing them to divide their attention and resources across multiple potential threats. Fatal mistakes in strategic planning often stem from hasty decisions and incomplete analysis. A common error is to base plans on wishful thinking rather than realistic assessments. Another critical mistake is failing to consider the full range of possible opponent responses. Each plan must be scrutinized for weaknesses and potential points of failure. The time invested in identifying and addressing these vulnerabilities before action begins will prevent costly setbacks later. Flexibility must be built into every strategic plan. While the overall objective remains constant, the specific methods for achieving it should adapt to changing circumstances. This requires maintaining awareness of developing situations and being prepared to modify approaches when necessary. A rigid plan that cannot accommodate unexpected developments is destined for failure. The most successful strategies include multiple paths to victory and allow for tactical adjustments without compromising the ultimate goal. Resources must be allocated efficiently within the strategic framework. Every asset, whether material or human, should be deployed in a way that maximizes its effectiveness while minimizing exposure to risk. This includes not only physical resources, but also time, information, and strategic positioning. The wise strategist understands that resources are finite and must be carefully managed throughout the duration of the campaign. The implementation of strategic plans requires precise timing and coordination. Each element must be synchronized to create maximum impact while minimizing vulnerability. This coordination extends beyond mere logistics to include psychological factors, environmental conditions, and the actions of allies and opponents. Like a complex mechanism, all parts must work together smoothly to achieve the desired outcome. Success in strategic planning often comes from identifying and exploiting asymmetric advantages. Rather than meeting strength with strength, the skilled strategist seeks opportunities to apply pressure at points where the opponent is weakest. This approach allows for victory with minimal expenditure of resources and reduced risk of casualties. By carefully selecting where and when to apply force, one can achieve objectives while maintaining the capacity for future operations. The most sophisticated strategic plans create situations where victory becomes inevitable. Through careful positioning, resource allocation, and timing, the outcome is determined before the first move is made. This approach embodies Sun Tzu's ideal of winning without fighting, achieving objectives through superior strategy rather than brute force. When executed properly, such plans leave opponents with no viable counter, moves forcing them to concede defeat or face certain failure. Timing and momentum. The mastery of timing and momentum stands as one of the most critical elements in achieving victory without direct confrontation. A skilled strategist understands that success often lies not in the action itself, but in when and how that action is executed. The natural flow of events creates windows of opportunity that, when properly identified and seized, can lead to effortless triumph. Time is both a weapon and a shield. When properly understood, it becomes an ally that can multiply your strength while diminishing your opponent's resolve. The ancient wisdom teaches us that rushing into conflict without proper timing is like swimming against a powerful current, exhausting and often futile. Instead, one must learn to recognize the rhythms of circumstances, much like a sailor reading the winds and tides. Momentum in strategy operates much like it does in nature. Just as a small snowball rolling down a mountainside can grow into an unstoppable avalanche, strategic actions can build upon themselves to create overwhelming force. The key lies in identifying the precise moment when minimal effort will yield maximum results. This principle applies whether in business negotiations, military operations, or personal conflicts. The concept of momentum extends beyond mere timing. It encompasses the ability to maintain and direct energy once it has been set in motion. A skilled strategist understands that victory often comes not from a single decisive action, but from sustaining pressure over time. This pressure need not be intense. Indeed, gentle but consistent force often proves more effective than dramatic but isolated efforts. Patience plays a crucial role in mastering timing and momentum. The hasty general loses more battles than the cautious one. Waiting for the right moment requires discipline and confidence, qualities that distinguish the superior strategist from the amateur. This waiting is not passive. It is an active state of observation and preparation, where one remains ready to act decisively when conditions align. Understanding cyclical patterns in your opponent's behavior creates opportunities for strategic timing. Every system, whether an individual or an organization, has natural rhythms of strength and vulnerability. By observing these patterns, one can predict and exploit moments of weakness while avoiding periods of strength. This observation extends to understanding seasonal changes, market cycles, and human psychology. The relationship between timing and deception also merits consideration. The ability to control the perception of timing can be as valuable as timing itself. Creating false expectations about when you might act can force opponents to waste resources preparing for events that never materialize while leaving them vulnerable to your actual movements. Swift execution complements perfect timing. When the moment arrives, action must be immediate and decisive. Any hesitation can allow the window of opportunity to close, turning potential advantage into disadvantage. This principle emphasizes the importance of preparation. When the right moment comes, there should be no need for lengthy deliberation or complex coordination. Energy conservation through proper timing represents another crucial aspect of strategic success. By acting at the optimal moment, one can accomplish with minimal effort what might otherwise require enormous resources. This efficiency principle applies not just to physical resources, but to psychological and emotional energy as well. The mastery of timing and momentum requires both intuition and analysis. While patterns can be studied and principles can be learned, the ability to feel the right moment comes from experience and deep understanding of human nature. This combination of learned wisdom and developed instinct creates the foundation for strategic excellence. Developing this mastery requires constant practice and observation. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to study timing and momentum, to understand how events flow and influence each other. Through this ongoing study, one develops the ability to shape circumstances rather than merely react to them, ultimately achieving the highest form of strategic control. Position and adaptability. Position in warfare is akin to water flowing downhill. It naturally seeks the path of least resistance and adapts to any terrain it encounters. The wise commander understands that position is not merely about physical location, but about creating situations where victory becomes inevitable. Like water that can either flow gently or crash with devastating force, proper positioning allows one to control the dynamics of any conflict. Strategic positioning begins with understanding the environment in which one operates. Just as water takes different forms depending on conditions, flowing, freezing, or evaporating, a skilled strategist must be able to adapt their approach based on circumstances. This includes not only physical terrain, but also social, economic, and political landscapes. The commander who fails to account for these factors is like a sailor who ignores the weather, destined for troubled waters. Environmental factors play a crucial role in determining strategic success. High ground provides advantage in physical warfare, just as market dominance provides advantage in business. However, the truly skilled commander knows that any position can become advantageous if properly utilized. Even disadvantageous terrain can become favorable when the enemy is led to engage under unfavorable conditions. This principle extends beyond physical conflict. In any competitive situation, understanding and controlling the environment allows one to shape the terms of engagement. The ability to shape circumstances rather than being shaped by them is a hallmark of superior strategy. This requires both foresight and flexibility. The wise commander creates situations that favor their strengths while exploiting enemy weaknesses. Like a skilled chess player, They think several moves ahead, positioning pieces not just for immediate advantage, but to create future opportunities. This approach requires patience and discipline, as the best position may not be immediately apparent to observers or opponents. Flexibility in approach is perhaps the most critical aspect of positioning. The rigid general who cannot adapt their strategy to changing circumstances will ultimately fail, regardless of their initial position. This flexibility must exist at all levels, from grand strategy to tactical execution. A plan that cannot be modified in response to changing circumstances is no plan at all, but merely a wish. The skilled commander maintains core objectives while remaining flexible about the means of achieving them. Position must also be considered in relation to time. A position that is advantageous today may become a liability tomorrow. The wise commander understands this dynamic nature of advantage and positions themselves not just for immediate success, but for long-term victory. This requires constant assessment and readjustment, much like a ship adjusting its course in response to changing winds and currents. The concept of adaptability extends beyond mere reaction to circumstances. True adaptability means actively creating conditions that favor one's objectives while limiting enemy options. This might involve controlling key resources, establishing dominant market positions, or securing crucial alliances. The goal is to create situations where the enemy's options become increasingly limited while one's own options remain open. Strategic positioning also involves understanding and manipulating the opponent's perception. A position that appears weak may actually be strong, and vice versa. The skilled commander uses this understanding to create uncertainty in the enemy's mind, leading them to make mistakes or hesitate at crucial moments. This psychological aspect of positioning is often more important than physical positioning. Position and adaptability work together to create strategic advantage. Strong positioning allows for greater adaptability, while adaptability enables one to maintain advantageous positions as circumstances change. This dynamic relationship must be understood and cultivated by any commander seeking lasting success. Like water that can wear away stone through persistent action, proper positioning and adaptability can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles over time. The art of manipulation. The most refined form of warfare lies not in direct confrontation, but in the subtle art of manipulation, where victory is achieved by making opponents defeat themselves. This sophisticated approach requires a deep understanding of human psychology and the ability to influence others without their awareness. At its core, manipulation in warfare involves creating situations where opponents make decisions that serve your interests while believing they are acting in their own best interest. This requires a masterful understanding of your opponent's desires, fears, and motivations. By identifying these psychological triggers, you can craft scenarios that guide their actions toward your intended outcome. The key to successful manipulation lies in indirect approaches. Rather than confronting an issue head-on, which often creates resistance, the wise strategist creates circumstances that naturally lead opponents toward the desired conclusion. This might involve presenting false opportunities that appear advantageous to the enemy, but actually lead them into disadvantageous positions. The beauty of this approach is that opponents believe they are making their own choices, unaware that their decisions have been carefully orchestrated. Psychological leverage plays a crucial role in this art. By understanding what drives your opponents, whether it's pride, greed, fear, or ambition, you can create situations that exploit these characteristics. For instance, a proud opponent can be led into overextending themselves by challenging their reputation, while a cautious one might be paralyzed into inaction through carefully planted seeds of doubt. The key is to make these manipulations subtle enough that they appear to arise naturally from circumstances, rather than from deliberate planning. The enemy's mind is the ultimate weapon in this form of warfare. When you can influence how opponents think, you control their actions without the need for physical force. This involves creating false perceptions, managing expectations, and controlling the flow of information. By presenting certain information while withholding other details, you can shape how opponents interpret situations and guide their decision-making process. Successful manipulation also requires patience and precise timing. Actions must be coordinated so that each step appears unrelated to the others, yet all contribute to the others, yet all contribute to the final objective. This might involve setting up multiple scenarios that seem independent but collectively guide the opponent toward an inevitable conclusion. The art lies in making each step appear natural and unforced, allowing the target to walk willingly into the prepared situation. However, manipulation must be wielded with wisdom and restraint. The goal is not to destroy opponents unnecessarily, but to achieve objectives with minimal conflict. The most skillful manipulator creates situations where opponents choose to cooperate or withdraw, believing it serves their own interests. This approach preserves resources and maintains relationships that might be valuable in the future. The mastery of manipulation also requires excellent observation skills and emotional intelligence. You must be able to read subtle signals, understand unspoken motivations, and anticipate reactions. This involves studying patterns of behavior, understanding cultural contexts, and recognizing emotional triggers that influence decision-making. Manipulation is most effective when it remains invisible. Once opponents become aware they are being manipulated, the strategy loses its power and can even backfire. The art lies in making all actions appear natural and inevitable, like water flowing downhill. Your influence should be like the wind, felt but unseen, guiding events, while leaving no trace of deliberate intervention. Through mastering the art of manipulation, you can achieve victory without engaging in direct conflict. This approach embodies the highest form of strategic thinking, where battles are won in the mind before they ever reach the field. By making opponents defeat themselves, you achieve your objectives while preserving your resources and maintaining the moral high ground. Strategic offensive. The art of offensive strategy lies not in brute force, but in the calculated application of pressure at precisely the right points. A wise warrior understands that victory comes not from overwhelming strength, but from identifying and exploiting critical weaknesses in the opponent's position. The strategic offensive is about achieving maximum results with minimal expenditure of resources and energy. When considering engagement, one must first evaluate the full spectrum of circumstances. The timing must be right, the position advantageous, and the opponent's vulnerabilities exposed. Just as water naturally flows downhill, seeking the path of least resistance, so too should your offensive moves follow the natural contours of the situation. Attack where the enemy is unprepared, appear where you are unexpected. The decision to engage should never be made lightly or in haste. Even when victory seems assured, careful consideration must be given to the long-term consequences of action. A truly skilled strategist knows that the best offensive often involves letting the opponent make the first mistake. By maintaining patience and composure, you create opportunities for the enemy to expose their weaknesses voluntarily. In executing an offensive strategy, it is essential to understand the principle of minimal force for maximum impact. This concept is similar to the leverage point of a lever. A small amount of pressure applied at exactly the right spot can move tremendous weights. In strategic terms, this means identifying the critical points where minimal effort can create cascading effects throughout the enemy's position. The wise warrior never attacks an enemy's strength directly. Such actions waste resources and alert the opponent to your intentions. Instead, focus your efforts on areas where the enemy is weakest or least prepared. This might mean targeting supply lines rather than fortifications, or undermining alliances rather than engaging in direct confrontation. By striking at vulnerable points, you force the enemy to react from a position of weakness. Understanding the psychology of your opponent is crucial in strategic offensive operations. Every action you take should serve to destabilize their mental state and decision-making process. Create doubt, confusion, and uncertainty. Make them question their assumptions, and second, guess their choices. A destabilized opponent is more likely to make mistakes that you can exploit. The concept of strategic offensive extends beyond mere physical confrontation. It encompasses economic pressure, diplomatic isolation, and information warfare. These indirect methods often prove more effective than direct conflict, as they allow you to achieve your objectives while preserving your own strength. The ultimate goal is to place your opponent in a position where resistance becomes futile or counterproductive. Timing plays a crucial role in offensive strategy. Like an archer drawing a bow, you must know precisely when to release your attack. Strike too early, and you may alert your opponent before you're ready. Strike too late, and the opportunity may pass. The perfect moment comes when your preparation meets the enemy's vulnerability. A successful offensive strategy requires maintaining initiative throughout the engagement. Once you begin your move, execute it with unwavering determination and focus. Hesitation or half. Measures only give your opponent time to recover and respond. When you strike, do so with the full commitment of your available resources, but always maintain a reserve for unexpected developments. The most masterful offensive strategies often appear to be anything but offensive to outside observers. They manifest as a series of seemingly unrelated actions that suddenly converge to create an insurmountable advantage. Like a net slowly tightening around its target, each move should contribute to the overall strategy while concealing its true purpose until it's too late for the opponent to respond effectively. The goal of strategic offensive is not destruction, but victory. The ideal outcome is achieving your objectives while leaving your opponent intact but unable or unwilling to resist. This approach preserves resources, maintains stability, and creates the conditions for a lasting resolution to the conflict. Resource management. In the intricate dance of conflict and competition, the management of resources stands as a cornerstone of strategic success. A master strategist understands that victory often belongs not to the side with the most resources, but to the one who utilizes them most efficiently. The wise commander knows that every resource, whether it be personnel, supplies, time, or information, must be carefully allocated and preserved. The fundamental principle of resource management in strategic warfare lies in the ability to sustain operations while depleting the enemy's capacity to fight. A skilled strategist seeks to achieve objectives with minimal expenditure of resources, creating a sustainable advantage that compounds over time. This approach requires a deep understanding of both immediate needs and long-term requirements, balanced against the available resources and potential future acquisitions. Economic warfare principles play a crucial role in resource management. By targeting an opponent's supply lines, resource bases, and economic foundations, a strategist can achieve victory without direct confrontation. This approach requires patience and precision, as the goal is to gradually weaken the opponent's position while strengthening one's own. The most effective campaigns often involve disrupting the enemy's resource flow while protecting and enhancing one's own supply channels. A skilled commander must also understand the concept of resource multiplication. This involves finding ways to make limited resources yield greater results through strategic deployment and careful timing. For instance, a small force positioned correctly can tie down a much larger enemy force, effectively multiplying its strategic value. Similarly, resources invested in intelligence gathering can prevent costly mistakes and ensure more efficient use of other assets. The art of resource management extends beyond material considerations. Time, morale, and political capital are equally important resources that must be managed wisely. A commander who exhausts their troops' energy on unnecessary engagements will find themselves at a disadvantage when crucial battles rise. Similarly, political support and alliances must be cultivated and maintained through judicious use of diplomatic resources. One of the most critical aspects of resource management is the ability to recognize and exploit asymmetric advantages. This involves identifying areas where minimal investment can yield maximum returns. For example, investing in defensive positions might require fewer resources than maintaining an offensive posture, yet still achieve the desired strategic objectives. The wise commander looks for such opportunities to create favorable resource exchanges. The principle of sustainability in conflict demands that resources be not merely conserved, but also regenerated. A successful strategy must include plans for replenishing expended resources and developing new ones. This might involve securing supply lines, establishing alliances, or developing alternative resource streams. The goal is to ensure that one's strategic position improves over time, rather than deteriorating through attrition. Resource management also involves understanding the psychological impact of resource allocation. The mere perception of abundant resources can influence an opponent's behavior and decision-making. Conversely, appearing resource-constrained might lead enemies to overextend themselves, creating opportunities for counteraction. The skilled strategist manages not only the actual resources at their disposal, but also the perception of those resources. The ultimate measure of effective resource management is not in the quantity of resources preserved, but in the strategic objectives achieved. A commander who achieves victory while maintaining strong resource positions has demonstrated true mastery of strategic warfare. This requires constant assessment and adjustment of resource allocation, always keeping the final objective in mind while avoiding unnecessary expenditure. A wise commander understands that resources are finite, but strategic advantages can be infinite when resources are managed properly. Through careful planning, efficient allocation, and strategic deployment, limited resources can be transformed into decisive advantages. The art of resource management thus becomes not merely a matter of conservation, but of transformation, turning available assets into instruments of victory. Leadership and command. The essence of effective leadership in conflict lies not in the demonstration of power, but in the ability to inspire and guide others toward victory. A true leader understands that their role extends far beyond giving orders. They must embody the principles they wish to instill in their subordinates. The most successful commanders throughout history have mastered the delicate balance between authority and adaptability, knowing when to stand firm and when to yield to changing circumstances. Leadership in warfare demands unwavering character combined with tactical flexibility. A commander must maintain absolute clarity of purpose while remaining responsive to evolving situations. This requires not only intelligence and strategic acumen, but also deep emotional awareness. The ability to read the mood of one's forces, anticipate their needs, and address their concerns before they manifest as problems is crucial for maintaining unit cohesion and fighting spirit. Decision-making under pressure represents perhaps the most critical test of leadership. In the heat of conflict, a commander must process complex information quickly, weigh multiple options, and commit to action decisively. Hesitation breeds uncertainty, and uncertainty leads to defeat. Yet speed must not come at the expense of wisdom. The skilled leader develops systems for rapidly assessing situations and making informed choices even when time is scarce and stakes are high. The management of teams and allies requires exceptional diplomatic skill alongside tactical expertise. Different groups bring different strengths, weaknesses, and cultural perspectives to any alliance. The effective commander must harmonize these diverse elements into a cohesive whole while respecting their individual characteristics. This requires clear communication, cultural sensitivity, and the ability to align various interests toward common goals. Trust forms the foundation of all successful leadership. Subordinates must believe in their commander's competence and character, while allies must have faith in their reliability and honest dealing. This trust is earned through consistent demonstration of good judgment, ethical behavior, and genuine concern for those under one's command. A leader who sacrifices their forces needlessly or betrays their allies for short-term gain will soon find themselves without anyone to lead. The art of command also involves knowing when to delegate authority and how to develop leadership qualities in others. No commander can personally oversee every aspect of operations, nor should they try. Building a capable chain of command, empowering subordinate leaders to take initiative, and fostering a culture of excellence throughout the organization multiplies the effectiveness of leadership. Discipline must be maintained through respect rather than fear. While punishment has its place in maintaining order, a command structure built primarily on threats will crumble in the face of real adversity. The wise leader creates an environment where excellence is expected and rewarded, where initiative is encouraged within appropriate bounds, and where mistakes are treated as opportunities for learning rather than occasions for punishment. Personal example remains the most powerful tool in a leader's arsenal. A commander who exhibits courage, wisdom, and integrity in their own conduct creates a standard that others naturally strive to emulate. This influence extends beyond direct subordinates to affect the entire organizational culture. When leaders demonstrate the qualities they demand from others, their authority gains moral weight that mere rank cannot provide. The highest form of leadership achieves victory through inspiration rather than coercion. When a commander can align their forces' individual motivations with the broader strategic objective, they create an unstoppable momentum. This requires deep understanding of human nature, clear vision, and the ability to communicate that vision in ways that resonate with diverse audiences. The greatest commanders in history have been those who could transform their followers' perspective from fighting because they must to fighting because they believe in the cause. Intelligence and information. In the realm of strategic warfare, intelligence and information serve as the foundation of victory. The wise commander understands that knowledge is not merely power, it is survival, advantage, and ultimately triumph. The gathering and proper utilization of intelligence creates an invisible shield that protects while simultaneously revealing the vulnerabilities of opponents. The first principle of intelligence warfare lies in establishing multiple channels of information. Relying on a single source, no matter how reliable it may seem, creates dangerous blind spots that enemies can exploit. These channels should include both formal and informal networks, ranging from dedicated scouts and spies to local inhabitants, merchants, and even seemingly insignificant workers within enemy territory. Each piece of information, however small, contributes to a larger mosaic that reveals the true nature of the battlefield and the opponent's intentions. Information warfare extends beyond mere data collection. It involves the careful analysis of gathered intelligence and the ability to distinguish valuable insights from deliberate misinformation. Enemies often plant false intelligence to mislead and confuse. The skilled strategist must develop a refined sense of discernment, questioning not just the information itself, but its source, timing, and potential motivations behind its revelation. The protection of one's own information becomes equally crucial in this domain. Just as you seek to understand your opponent, they are undoubtedly attempting to gather intelligence about your forces, intentions, and vulnerabilities. Creating a secure system of information management prevents vital secrets from falling into enemy hands. This includes establishing clear protocols for communication, implementing various levels of information access, and training personnel in the art of discretion. The modern battlefield has expanded the scope of intelligence warfare exponentially. Digital networks, satellite surveillance, and advanced communication systems have created new opportunities for gathering intelligence while simultaneously introducing new vulnerabilities that must be guarded against. The principle remains unchanged. Control of information flow determines the outcome of conflicts. Disinformation campaigns serve as powerful weapons in information warfare. By strategically releasing carefully crafted false information, you can manipulate enemy behavior, leading them to make decisions based on flawed assumptions. However, such tactics must be employed with precision and restraint. Excessive use of disinformation can backfire, damaging your credibility and making future deceptions less effective. The timing of information release and acquisition plays a critical role in strategic success. Intelligence that arrives too late loses its value, while premature revelation of information can alert enemies to your awareness of their plans. The skilled commander maintains a constant flow of current intelligence while building a comprehensive understanding of long-term patterns and trends. Creating redundancy in intelligence networks ensures continuous information flow even when individual channels are compromised. This requires significant investment in developing and maintaining multiple information sources, but the cost is justified by the strategic advantage it provides. A well-structured intelligence network becomes a force multiplier, allowing smaller forces to prevail against numerically superior opponents through superior awareness and anticipation. The human element remains central to intelligence operations despite technological advances. Personal relationships, cultural understanding, and psychological insight often yield information that no surveillance system can capture. Developing and maintaining these human intelligence networks requires patience, discretion, and a deep understanding of human nature. Intelligence warfare extends beyond military applications into all forms of strategic competition. The principles of gathering, protecting, and utilizing information apply equally to business, politics, and any domain where strategic advantage determines success. The commander who masters these principles gains the ability to shape reality itself, creating circumstances that lead inevitably to victory while leaving opponents wondering how they were defeated before the battle even began. Information serves as both sword and shield in the art of war. The skilled strategist wields it to reveal enemy weaknesses while concealing their own strengths, to create confusion while maintaining clarity, and ultimately to achieve victory through superior understanding rather than brute force. In the end, the mastery of intelligence and information transforms the art of war from a contest of strength into a battle of minds, where victory belongs to the most perceptive rather than the most powerful. The path to victory. The ultimate goal of strategic warfare is to achieve victory without engaging in destructive battles. This principle, central to Sun Tzu's philosophy, represents the highest form of strategic mastery. True victory lies not in the aftermath of bloody conflicts, but in the ability to render an opponent's resistance futile before any physical confrontation occurs. The path to such victory begins with a deep understanding that force is merely one tool among many. A skilled strategist recognizes that military might should be the last resort, not the first option. By cultivating comprehensive strategic advantages, diplomatic, economic, psychological, and positional, one can create circumstances where an opponent's defeat becomes inevitable without the need for direct confrontation. Long-term strategic thinking forms the foundation of this approach. Rather than focusing on immediate tactical gains, the wise leader considers the broader implications of each action and builds toward a position of overwhelming advantage. This involves careful cultivation of resources, alliances, and opportunities while simultaneously working to diminish the opponent's strategic options and support base. The concept of maintaining peace through strength is not paradoxical, but practical. When one side achieves such comprehensive superiority, not just in military might, but in all aspects of power, potential adversaries naturally hesitate to engage in conflict. This deterrent effect creates stability and peace more effectively than any battle could achieve. A crucial element of bloodless victory is the ability to shape perception. By demonstrating overwhelming capability while simultaneously showing restraint and wisdom, a leader can influence potential adversaries to reconsider their hostile intentions. This approach requires mastery of both hard and soft power, the ability to threaten force credibly while also offering attractive alternatives to conflict. Strategic patience plays a vital role in achieving victory without battle. Many conflicts arise from hasty actions and emotional responses. The disciplined strategist understands that time itself can be a powerful weapon. By waiting for the right moment, allowing situations to develop naturally, and maintaining steady pressure on an opponent's weaknesses, victory can often be achieved through the natural collapse of resistance rather than through direct confrontation. Creating multiple paths to victory is essential in this approach. While an opponent might be able to counter one strategy, defending against numerous simultaneous pressures becomes increasingly difficult. By applying pressure across different domains, economic, diplomatic, psychological, and strategic, the wise leader creates an environment where resistance becomes increasingly costly and ultimately futile. The maintenance of stability after victory is equally important. A true strategic success creates conditions that prevent future conflicts rather than sowing the seeds of future resistance. This requires wisdom in victory, knowing how to secure advantages without humiliating opponents or creating desperate situations that might spark renewed hostility. Infrastructure and societal foundations must be preserved to ensure lasting peace. Victory achieved through destruction often proves temporary, as devastated societies breed resentment and future conflict. By achieving objectives while maintaining the essential fabric of society, a leader creates conditions for sustainable peace and prosperity. The path to victory without battle requires constant learning and adaptation. As circumstances change and new challenges emerge, strategies must evolve while remaining true to fundamental principles. This balance between consistency and flexibility marks the true master of strategy, one who can achieve objectives while minimizing conflict and destruction. Understanding these principles transforms how we approach conflict at all levels. Whether in business, politics, or international relations, the ability to achieve objectives without destructive confrontation represents the highest form of strategic wisdom. This is the true art of war, not the mastery of violence, but the ability to render violence unnecessary.